Good morning. As you're all aware, education and policies surrounding it are constantly changing. I wanted to update you on current things happening regarding the issue of teacher expectations so you can be more informed participants should our own policies begin to change. Before I discuss the more current issues, however, I feel it's important of me to remind you of how some of the current policies are reflective of historical perspectives of education. To begin to provide you with some background of our current education system, I described to you Horace Mann, who had significant influence in changing our system of education from one which Jefferson believed should be governed very little to one where Mann believed the organization and dictation of public school systems at the federal level made schooling more effective. In 1837, Massachusetts, Mann began to have concern for issues involving education. In 1837, Mann attempted to secure funding for the state's common schools. Although he lost that fight, the Massachusetts legislature created a state board of education that allowed Mann to collect and distribute important information regarding educational practices. This was the first step towards unifying and creating common framework among schools. Mann was able to discuss important issues with citizens at a local level, a practice that is still continued with district school boards, and he was able to recommend best current practice which gave guidance to teachers and school systems. During his time as secretary to the State Board of Education, he promoted many different ideals that were not without their opposition. Although some disagreed, many of Mann's ideas are still concepts that are discussed and established in today's educational environments. Similar to our current practices and beliefs, he believed school buildings should be adequate facilities, where students would be more comfortable to learn. He also promoted the economic benefit of common schools, appealing to businesses which were looking for more educated, rounded employees. Also similar to current practices, Mann believed that punishment was often ineffective, and students should be taught with more understanding and affection to help modify their student behaviors. Mann also took issue with how moral issues were taught in schools. He attempted to compromise with all of the cultures to establish a more common set of ideals. This is an issue that's still being discussed today as we learn to accommodate our students from different cultural backgrounds and religious beliefs. Finally, issues of teacher quality were raised by Mann, who set groundwork to establish schools for female teachers. He felt teachers needed to be adequately trained in order to be able to handle the issues they would face in the school systems. He also felt that teachers should be clothed in garments of virtue and reflect the highest moral standards in their personal and professional lives. The fact that many of the major concerns in education are still being debated today is important to realize. As teachers, I understand that you all teach different subjects and many different student abilities. It is important for us to understand the history of how practices came to be so we can better understand our own philosophy of education. By identifying your personal philosophy of education, you will better be able to evaluate current changes in educational practice and continue to provide the best possible education for your students. The issue Mann takes with teacher performance has changed in some ways, but is a current topic which will likely be affecting all of us in the future. Currently, as stated by Stephen Sawchuk from Education Week, evaluations of teacher effectiveness are taking a forefront in educational reform. He attributes these changes to, first, a new wave of research on teacher quality, secondly, philanthropic interest in boosting teacher effectiveness, third, efforts by advocacy groups and policymakers to revamp state laws on education, and finally, the political pressure to dismiss poorly performing teachers. The ability to look at student test scores and note teacher differences has sparked the funding of more focus on teacher evaluations. Currently, teachers are evaluated typically on meeting teaching standards as measured by classroom observation and test scores of students. Some teachers' unions have agreed that this new system of accountability for teachers will create better evaluations of teachers' skills and provide more applicable feedback. I certainly appreciate feedback similar to that when I'm working with my students. It allows me to adapt what I'm doing with them so that I can be more effective in the future. Some concerns about new teacher evaluations are that some states are currently linking teacher effectiveness to raises and compensation. Others argue that with these strict guidelines for teachers, our teachers are losing their desire and ability to be creative in their teaching methods. I recently read an article called Saving the Art of Teaching from the Science of Education. The author, Faldwell Dunbar, describes a teaching system similar to the antics in the movie Dead Poets Society from 1989. He has concerns that teachers are now required to match all the correct standards and are left to lecture without more exciting learning opportunities. My hope this morning was to provide you with some background as to how our current culture of education has stayed the same in many respects since the mid-1800s, but also continues to change. As teachers, I implore you to think about your current teaching philosophy and if it matches with our current mission and your educational beliefs. With the changes to teacher accountability, I hope this thoughtfulness of your teaching styles and strategies can help you adapt and understand changes in regulation regarding teacher accountability. Thank you very much for giving me your time today.